What's going on, guys? Briar Rabbit here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the NeoGeo wireless controller. This works with Windows, Android, and the NeoGeo Mini. However, we'll be talking about that a little bit more later in the video. In the box, you get the controller, some instructions, a 3-foot USB A to C cable, a USB A to C adapter, and a 2.4 gigahertz USB receiver. The controller is based on the NeoGeo CD controller that was released in 1994, and the main draw to this controller is actually the joystick. So instead of a D-pad, what you have is sort of a hybrid between a D-pad and an analog stick and even an arcade lever that has 4 micro switches on it. So it feels a little bit like an arcade lever, and you can actually hear the micro switches. It gives you quite a bit of feedback when you move it around. This has been very popular with the NeoGeo community. Obviously, the old controllers only work with the NeoGeo, so getting a new wireless controller that features this setup done in a fairly accurate way is really exciting. Taking a look around the controller itself, you can see the main feature, this micro switched joystick. We have a start and select button. We have 2 8BitDo buttons, the star and the heart. No mention of these in the instructions, but I did find they worked with the Mister and the Pocket, but more information on the Pocket later. We have 4 face buttons laid out in the NeoGeo CD traditional style. We have 2 new additions with the L and R button at the top of the controller, as well as a sync button. This is to sync to a wireless controller or to Bluetooth. We also have an LED light up here, as well as a USB-C charging port. This also can be used to plug the controller in for wired use. Around the bottom of the controller, we have a switch to switch from Bluetooth to 2.4 gigahertz mode. And at the bottom of the controller, we have 4 LED lights. I believe these are just to show which player you're connected as. This is an attempt to recreate this nearly 40-year-old design with some modern updates, much like NeoGeo has done with the N30, the M30, and many more. Unlike those controllers, though, I have never used the controller this is based on, so there will be no nostalgia coming into play in this review. If you want to know more about how accurately this replicates the experience of the original NeoGeo CD controller, check out Scarlet Sprites on YouTube, a NeoGeo collector who knows exactly what this controller should feel like to be accurate to the original. This video is going to focus on how good this controller is today and whether or not I think it's worth checking out to play games in the modern era. Let's start with the joystick. It is instantly pleasing to push this stick around. As an arcade stick enthusiast, the blending of a D-pad with the microswitch sounds and action of an arcade lever is instantly attractive. Once I started wiggling the stick around in game, I immediately realized this is going to take some getting used to, especially for diagonals. Pressing like for forward or backward jumps in a fighting game took some real concentration at first to perform without just jumping straight up and down in the air by accident. It's not that it's hard to move the joystick to the diagonal, it's just hard to activate both micro switches, for example, right and up at the same time. In time, I've been gradually getting used to it, and I find that just moving it quickly lets the game register both of those inputs at the same time. In other games, shooters like Androdunos or Polestar, for example, I had no such issues. Going back to fighting games, this is a NeoGeo controller after all. I found motion inputs like quarter circles, half circles, dragon punches to be very easy to do. I think with practice, it would be, for me, preferable to a standard Nintendo or Sony style D-pad. It just feels awesome and intuitive. The face buttons are less interesting, but still very good in their own right. Laid out in kind of a tilted diamond pattern, they're a bit bigger than most modern consoles, but feel great, and it's easy to navigate, and it's easy to mush 2 buttons at the same time, which can be very useful in certain games. Up top, the L and R buttons are new to the modern version of the controller and are a welcome addition, allowing the controller to be used for more than just NeoGeo games that only require 4 buttons. The SNES or an older Street Fighter game, for instance, totally usable now. Overall, functionally, I find the controller to be very comfortable, solid feeling, and well laid out. There are 3 ways to connect this controller to your devices using a USB cable, Bluetooth, or with the included 2.4 gigahertz wireless receiver. Using the receiver, I was able to use the controller with a Windows PC, my Mister, and really that's about it. 8BitDo says the controller will also work with a Neo Geo Mini, which I didn't try because I don't have one. Same goes with an Android device. I just don't own any. So no Switch, no analog pocket, no Steam Deck compatibility out of the box, which, it kind of stinks. However, I did learn from the Mad Little Pixel YouTube channel, I'll put a link in the description, that if you make the additional purchase of an 8BitDo USB wireless adapter 2, your connection options really open up. Switch the controller into Bluetooth mode, pair it to the adapter, and suddenly you can connect the Neo Geo wireless to a lot more devices. For instance, I was able to use it with the Nintendo Switch, the analog pocket, and even a Steam Deck with no issues. It would have been nice if the controller had this sort of compatibility out of the box. The USB wireless adapter 2 is another $20 purchase, but I'm happy that it does work. Latency as tested by Mr. Add-ons is very low, 6.2 milliseconds for a wired connection, 4.5 milliseconds for 2.4 gigahertz, and 10 milliseconds on Bluetooth. That's pretty good, especially when using the 2.4 gigahertz. Again, this does make me wish the 2.4 gigahertz USB adapter was compatible with more devices. More similar to the 8BitDo arcade stick, which uses a similar system, a 2.4 gigahertz adapter, Bluetooth, and wired connectivity, but the 2.4 gigahertz USB adapter works with far more devices out of the box. The design and layout of this controller are meant to be a modern recreation of the original Neo Geo CD pad, which is a major selling point of this controller, and I like that. There are plenty of ways to play these old Neo Geo games via emulation on systems like the Pocket or the Mister, or via re-releases on modern systems like the PlayStation or the Switch. And this controller is perfect for playing those games. But the limited button layout does limit it a bit for more modern games. The addition of the L&R buttons are great, but locking this joystick to only this limited button set is a bit of a shame. I'm not asking 8BitDo to abandon this retro design. I think this has its place, but I'd love to see this joystick used on another controller design with more buttons to add more functionality for modern games. Like Street Fighter 6, for instance. In the end, I really think this is an awesome controller from 8BitDo and their team up with SNK. I love having this kind of retro design controller. I have a lot of their previous designs for retro controllers. My main complaint is connectivity out of the box, but that can be solved with an additional purchase. And the fact that the button set is a little bit limited. I'd love to see a 6-button face layout for things like Street Fighter games or other modern games, as well as maybe a couple more shoulder buttons to really open up the functionality of the stick with more modern games. All in all, though, I really love this thing. It's a really unique controller in the modern era. It's always been a unique controller, and the micro-switched joystick, as opposed to just a regular D-pad, it feels great. It's going to take some getting used to, but it feels great right out of the box, and you can see why it's so popular with Neo Geo fans. Thanks for watching this video, guys. That's going to do it for this one. Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.